The boy had blood on his fingers when he pointed at the car. It wasn't his, and the engine was still running. But what Jack saw through the tinted windows would change everything he thought he knew about protecting someone. Because sometimes, saving one life means destroying another. And Jack was 3 seconds away from crossing that point of no return. If you believe there are things the police will never solve in time, subscribe now. And tell me in the comments where you're watching this from. Because this story happened closer to you than you think. The motorcycle cut through the asphalt of Highway 79 like a hot blade cutting through old butter. Jack, edge rider. Donovan hadn't expected to stop. Not that night. Not with a half-empty tank and rain threatening to pour down on the Arizona desert at any second. He'd ridden nearly 200 kilometers from Tucson, carrying only the roar of the engine and the weight of a week he'd rather forget. Then the boy appeared. Not from the shoulder of the road. Not from behind a broken-down car. He simply planted himself in the middle of the lane, arms outstretched as if trying to embrace death. Jack braked so hard that the back of the Harley slid sideways, kicking up gravel and rubber fumes. The high beams illuminated the boy's face, maybe 10 years old, maybe less, hair plastered to his forehead, shirt torn at the shoulder, and his eyes. God, those eyes. It wasn't fear. It was certainty. The certainty of someone who has already seen something that shouldn't exist. Jack slowly removed his helmet, still gripping the handlebars tightly, trying to understand if this was real or if he had hit his head on some pothole miles back. The boy didn't move. He only raised his right hand, trembling, dirty, and pointed to the left. Jack followed the direction with his eyes. 100 meters ahead, parked by the side of the road, a silver Chevrolet Malibu. Engine running, headlights off, tinted windows, no visible movement. "What did you see?" Jack asked, his deep voice cutting through the silence of the night. The boy swallowed hard. His hand was still pointing, but now it trembled more. "She's crying." Jack got off the motorcycle. His boots hit the asphalt with a heavy, definite sound. He glanced at the Malibu, then back at the boy. "Who?" "The woman. In the back seat." The boy's voice was thin, but firm. Too firm for someone so small. "He hit her. I saw it through the window. And now he's doing something else." Jack's stomach clenched. He knew this kind of thing. He knew the smell, the texture, the bitter taste that came before. He'd seen men do horrible things thinking the darkness protected them, thinking no one would stop them. "Are you alone?" Jack asked. The boy nodded. "My father dropped me off at the gas station back there. He said he'd be right back." He paused, took a deep breath. "It's been 3 hours." Jack clenched his teeth. Of course. Always the same shit. Abandoned child. Missing. Adult. And the world waiting for someone in a dirty leather vest to fix what's been broken forever. He took 2 steps toward Malibu. The car's engine hummed softly, almost a whisper. Jack could feel the tension in the air, thick, electric, wrong. He stopped 3 meters from the vehicle. He tilted his head. He tried to see through the tinted glass. Nothing. But then, very quietly, he heard it. A muffled sob. Feminine. Desperate. And then, a male voice. Deep. Irritated. "Shut up." Jack looked. Back. The boy was still standing in the middle of the road, illuminated only by the moonlight and the faint glow of the Harley's headlight. He seemed smaller now, more fragile, as if he had placed the weight of the world on a stranger's shoulders and was now waiting to see if he could handle it. Jack turned back to the car, and he started walking. Every step was a choice, every step was a sentence. Because Jack knew, he always knew, that once you open the gates of hell for someone else, there's no going back. Jack knocked on the driver's side window with his knuckles. 3 sharp knocks, hard enough to make it clear that it wasn't a request. It was a warning. The window rolled down slowly, electric, smooth, as if the guy inside had all the time in the world. And maybe I did, until 30 seconds ago. The man was large, broad shoulders, thick neck, scruffy beard. He wore a denim shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms covered in cheap tattoos, eagles, skulls, phrases in Gothic, script that Jack didn't even bother to read. He smelled of warm beer and stale cigarettes, the kind of smell that clings to the skin and won't go away. "Can I help?" he said, his voice slurred and bored. Jack bent down slightly, resting his hand on the car's roof. His eyes scanned the interior. Empty passenger seat. In the back seat, partially hidden by the shadows, a woman. Young, maybe in her early 20s, messy blonde hair falling over her face. She was facing the window, shoulders hunched. Forward, hands clasped between her thighs. She didn't look at Jack. She didn't look at anything. But he saw the cheek, swollen, reddened, the clear mark of a hand. "Is everything all right here?" Jack asked, keeping his voice calm, controlled, because he knew that men like this responded better to calmness. For now. The driver smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile men give when they think they're still in control. "Everything's great, brother. Just a quick stop. We're on our way." Jack didn't look away. "I wasn't asking you." His smile faltered. The man blinked, as if processing what he had just heard. Then he straightened up in his seat, his fingers gripping the base of the steering wheel. "Excuse me, but who the hell are you?" Jack ignored her. He leaned closer, looking directly at the woman in the back seat. "Miss, are you okay?" She didn't answer, but something changed. Her shoulders trembled, almost imperceptibly, as if she had held her breath for so long that her body was giving up trying. "Hey." The driver's voice grew louder, harsher. "I was talking to you, man. Get out of my car." Jack finally looked at him, straight into his eyes, and what the driver saw there made his smile vanish completely. "No." The word fell like a stone. The man opened his mouth to answer, but hesitated. Jack saw the doubt flash across his face, quick, but real. He was trying to gauge, trying to calculate, trying to decide if it was worth it. And then the woman spoke. It was almost a whisper, hoarse, broken. "Please, he won't let me leave." Everything stopped. The wind, the engine, the world. Jack felt something rise in his chest. It wasn't anger, it was worse. It was recognition, because he had heard that voice before, in other places, on other roads, in other lives he couldn't save. He straightened his body, slowly. He took 2 steps back. He looked at the driver with a calmness that was more dangerous than any scream. "Open the back door." The man gave a short, nervous laugh. "Have you gone crazy, man? That's my girlfriend. We're just talking." "Open. He is going to screw it up." Jack didn't answer. He just looked back to where the boy was still standing on the road. The boy hadn't moved. But now, in the moonlight, Jack saw something more. There was another child next to him, a little girl, younger, maybe 6 years old. She was holding the boy's hand so tightly that her fingers were white, and she was staring straight at Malibu, terrified. Jack turned to the driver again, and this time when he spoke, his voice was no longer calm. It held promise. "You have 5 seconds to open this door, or I'll open it for you." The man must have seen something in Jack's face, something that made every muscle in his body freeze. Because he didn't argue, he just locked the doors. And he stepped on the gas. The Malibu skidded off the road, throwing gravel and dust everywhere. Jack jumped back, but not fast enough. The side of the car grazed his shoulder, sending him spinning and falling to his knees on the asphalt. The pain exploded, sharp and hot, but he barely felt it. His eyes were fixed on the red taillights receding into the darkness. Inside the car, through the fogged-up window, he saw the woman's silhouette. She had turned her head. She was looking back. At him. and Jack swore he saw her lips form a word. Help. Then the car turned left, entering a dirt side road, and disappeared among the trees. Jack stood there for a second. 2. Breathing heavily. His shoulder throbbed, the taste of iron in his mouth. But none of that mattered, because all he could see was her face. That look. He recognized that look. I had seen it on another face years ago. "Sir?" The boy's voice pulled him back. Jack blinked, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and stood up slowly. The boy was closer now, with the girl still clinging to his hand. She was crying softly, her nose running, her eyes red. Was she in the car too? Jack asked, his voice hoarse. The boy shook his head. "No, she's my sister. I hid her behind the post when I saw the man stop. He looked at her. The wrong way." Jack closed his eyes for a moment. Of course. It always got worse. "What are your names?" "I'm Danny. She's Sarah." Jack crouched down in front of them. He looked into Danny's eyes, then into Sarah's. Her face was dirty, her hair was tangled, her clothes were 3 sizes too big. But there was something else. Something in her eyes that Jack recognized immediately. An old fear. It wasn't a fear of the present moment. It was the kind of fear that lives inside, that becomes part of your breathing. "How long have you been on the street?" he asked softly. Danny hesitated. 2 days. "Our father, he said he was going to get food. He left us at the gas station. He never came back." "And the mother?" The boy looked away. "We don't have a mother. She left when Sarah was a baby." Jack felt the familiar weight descend upon him. Abandoned children, a missing father, probably drinking in some dive 3 towns away or dead in a gutter. And meanwhile, 2 little ones trying to survive on a deserted road in the middle of nowhere. He had seen this before. I had experienced this before. "Have you eaten today?" Danny shook his head. Jack sighed. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a crumpled granola bar. He broke it in half and gave it to them. Sarah grabbed it with both hands and started eating too fast, almost choking. Danny ate slowly, but Jack saw the way he looked at his sister, checking if she was okay before swallowing his own piece. Protective. Even if it's just a child, Jack knew that too. "Listen, Danny," he said, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. "That woman in the car, she's in danger. I need to find her, but before that I need to get you 2 to a safe place." "We don't want to go to a shelter," Danny said quickly, firmly. "They'll separate us. They always do." Jack shook his head. "I'm not taking you to a shelter, but I have some friends. People who take care of children. Good people." "How do you know they're good?" The question hit Jack like a punch, because it was valid. It was clever. It was exactly the kind of question a child who had already been hurt would learn to ask. "Because I was like you," Jack said, his voice low. "My father abandoned me when I was 9. My mother drank herself to death. And there were people I didn't even know, who caught me when I was falling." Danny looked at him, really looked, as if he were trying to decide whether he could believe him. "Are you coming back?" he asked. "I go." "Promise?" Jack stopped, because promises were dangerous. Promises were broken. He knew that better than anyone. But then he looked at Sarah. She had stopped eating and was looking at him with those huge eyes, full of something he hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. "I promise," he said. And he prayed that he wasn't lying. Jack led the children to the motorcycle and retrieved his cell phone from the side compartment. 3 bars of signal, a miracle in the middle of the desert. He dialed a number he knew by heart. He answered on the 2nd ring. "Speak up, Edge." His voice was deep, hoarse, heavy with years on the road and cigarettes. Marcus Wrench Coleman, Vice President of the Arizona chapter of the Iron Saints MC. One of the few men in the world Jack truly trusted. Wrench, I need a favor. Always needed. Send it. I have 2 children with me, siblings, abandoned by their father. I need someone to pick them up and take them to Carla's shelter. There was a pause. Where are you? Highway 79, about 20 kilometers south of Florence. I'm 40 minutes away, hang in there. There's one more thing. Of course it does. Jack looked at the dirt road where the Malibu had disappeared. There's a guy, driving a silver Chevrolet Malibu, Arizona license plate. He's got a woman in the back seat. She's hurt. And he wouldn't let her out when I asked. Wrench was silent for a moment. Then, what do you think it is? Trafficking? Kidnapping? I don't know, but she asked for help, and he sped up. Did you get the license plate? There wasn't enough time. Damn it, Jack. You know that without a license plate we can't do much officially. I know, but I'm going after him anyway. Wrench sighed. Jack could imagine him running a hand through his gray beard, looking at the ceiling, calculating the risks. Do you know where he went? Dirt road, westbound, probably some isolated house or campsite. In this region there are about 3 or 4 places like that. Most of them are controlled by drug traffickers or people who don't want to be found. Then that's exactly the kind of place he would choose. Jack, I know what you're going to say and I don't care. Wrench took a deep breath. Okay, I'll go get the kids, but you wait for me before you get involved in anything. Deal? Jack looked back at the road. It had been almost 5 minutes since the Malibu had disappeared. Every second that passed was another second that woman spent alone with him. Deal, Jack lied. He hung up. Danny looked at him. Are you really going after her? I go. What if the man hurts you? Jack crouched down again. He placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. Then I get a beating. But she won't be alone. Sarah tugged at Jack's sleeve. He looked down. Her eyes were full of tears, but she wasn't crying. She was holding back. The man. He has a gun, she whispered. Everything stopped. Jack looked at Danny. The boy looked away but nodded. I saw when he hit her. He took it off his belt, showed it to her, said that if she screamed he'd use it. Jack's blood ran cold. Gun, injured woman, deserted road, hidden house. He knew this script, and it never ended well. Okay, Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. You guys are staying here. My friend is coming to pick you up. You stay with him. Don't get off the motorcycle. Understood? Danny nodded. Sarah gripped her brother's hand tighter. Jack stood up, went to the Harley, and opened the back compartment. He had a flashlight, a pocket knife, and a Glock 19 wrapped in an old rag. He hesitated. He didn't like carrying a gun. He had sworn to himself years ago that he would never carry a weapon again after what happened in Fresno. But this was different. He picked up the Glock. He checked the magazine. 15 bullets. More than enough to do something really stupid or absolutely necessary. Jack tucked the gun into his waistband, covered it with his jacket, and looked at the children one last time. Wrench will take care of you. Trust him. And the lady? Danny asked. The one in the car. Does she have a name? Jack stopped. He realized he didn't know. Not the name, not the age, not the story, only the look in her eyes, only the silent plea. Not yet, he said, but I'll find out. He got on the motorcycle. He started the engine. The roar filled the night. And then Jack turned onto the dirt road, towards the darkness, towards the unknown, towards the kind of thing that men like him could never leave behind. Because if he didn't go, nobody would, and she would be left alone, with an armed man, in a house that nobody knew, waiting for something Jack prayed would arrive before it was too late. The dirt road was narrow and full of potholes. The Harley shook violently with every meter, its headlights illuminating dry bushes and broken barbed wire fences. Jack slowed down, trying to balance urgency and caution. If he made too much noise, he would lose the element of surprise. If he went too slow, it might be too late. 2 kilometers further on, he saw the tire tracks, recent ones. The Malibu had passed by there. The wheels had sunk into the soft earth, leaving deep ruts. Jack followed the tracks, his muscles tense, his right hand near the gun at his waist. Then he saw the light, weak, yellowish, coming from a low building about 300 meters ahead. It looked like an old wooden house, half sunken into the ground, with broken windows and a half-fallen zinc roof. The Malibu was parked in front, doors closed, engine off. Jack stopped the motorcycle 100 meters away. He turned off the engine. He got off in silence. The night was dense now. The wind carried the smell of dry earth, creosote, and something else. Something rotten. He approached slowly, crouching, using the shadows. He reached aside, window of the house, and huddled against the wall. He heard voices inside, low, tense. "You didn't have to bring her here, man." A male voice, young, nervous. "Shut up, Tyler. I do what I want." That was the driver's voice, deeper, overconfident. Jack peered through the window ledge. The room was filthy, old mattresses on the floor, empty bottles scattered about, a broken coffee table, 3 men. The driver of the Malibu was standing, drinking from a can of beer. Next to him were 2 younger guys, one skinny in a baseball cap, the other fat in a tank top. Both looked uncomfortable, and in the corner, sitting on the floor with her hands tied in front of her, was the woman. Her blonde hair fell over her face. She was bent forward, her shoulders trembling. She wasn't crying anymore. Perhaps she had no tears left. Jack felt the anger rising like bile. "She saw through our scheme, man," the driver continued. "She was meddling where she shouldn't have, asking too many questions. Now she knows everything. So we're going to—" The skinny man couldn't finish. "I haven't decided yet." The driver crouched down in front of her. He gripped her chin tightly, forcing her to look at him. "You should have stayed quiet, Rachel. You should have pretended you didn't see anything." Rachel. Now she had a name. Jack saw her try to speak, but her voice came out broken. "I won't tell anyone. I swear. Please." The driver laughed. It was a cold sound, empty. "Of course not." He released her face and stood up. He took the gun from his belt, a small black pistol, but lethal enough. He checked the magazine, put it back in. Jack knew he had at most 2 minutes. He stepped away from the window and circled the house, looking for a back entrance. He found a rotten wooden door, its hinges slightly loose. He tested it. It opened with a low creak. Inside, the smell was worse. Mold, cigarette smoke, and something chemical. Methamphetamine, probably. Jack walked down a narrow corridor, his steps silent, his breathing controlled. He reached the entrance to the room. It stopped. He calculated. 3 men, 1 armed, 2 probably armed as well. Hostage in the middle, low light, tight space. Chances? Ruins. But he had faced worse. Jack took a step forward, and then his phone vibrated. The sound was faint, just a vibration in his pocket, but in the silent room it sounded like an explosion. The 3 men turned their heads at the same time. Jack froze. The driver narrowed his eyes. "Tyler, go see what it is." "Shit." Jack retreated into the hallway, but it was too late. Tyler was already coming, his hand reaching for his pocket, probably to grab a weapon. Jack didn't think. He acted. When Tyler crossed the threshold, Jack grabbed him by the neck, pulled him back, and applied an arm lock. The boy tried to scream, but Jack covered his mouth with his other hand. "Silence," Jack whispered in his ear, "or I'll break." Tyler trembled but stopped resisting. Then the driver's voice came from the living room. "Tyler, what the hell is going on in there?" Jack didn't answer. He shoved Tyler back into the room, using him as a shield. The other 2 jumped to their feet. The fat one pulled out a knife. The driver raised his gun, and he pointed directly at Jack. Let him go. Jack kept Tyler in front. Let the woman go. The driver laughed. You're the idiot of the road, the motorcyclist. On. Are you stupid? Or are you just horny for dying? Jack didn't look. Away. Let her go, and we'll get out of here. No police, no trouble. Or, either I break your friend's neck. Tyler gasped. The driver hesitated. He looked at Tyler, then at Jack. You don't have the guts. Jack squeezed harder. Tyler let out a muffled cry. Try me. The driver gritted his teeth, but Jack saw something pass across his face. Doubt. He was trying to calculate, trying to decide how much it was worth. And then Rachel moved. She lifted her head. She looked at Jack. And he whispered, There are more people coming. Jack froze. What? His brother. She swallowed hard. He called before we arrived. He said he was bringing backup. The driver smiled. Did you hear that, motorcyclist? You're surrounded. Jack heard it then, the sound of engines, several, coming down the dirt road. They weren't Harleys. They were pickup trucks, fast, heavy, and they were arriving. The headlights cut through the darkness like blades, illuminating the entire house. 3 pickup trucks, old, modified, noisy Ford F-150s, stopped in a semicircle around the Malibu. Doors opened, boots thumped on the ground. Jack let go of Tyler and pushed him forward. The boy staggered and fell to his knees. Jack took 3 steps back, positioning himself between the door and Rachel. He calculated the distance, 5 meters to her, 10 to the back exit, 15 to the motorcycle. Impossible. The front door kicked open. A man entered. Tall, thin, with a shaved head and a snake tattoo climbing up his neck. He wore a black leather jacket, dirty jeans, and steel-toed boots. Behind him were 4 more, all armed, all looking at Jack as if he were an easy problem to solve. The driver smiled. It took you long enough, Vince. Vince, apparently the brother, looked at Jack, then at Rachel, then back at Jack. Is this the hero? Yeah. He appeared out of nowhere. He thought he was going to save the lady. Vince walked slowly toward Jack. He stopped a meter away. He tilted his head. He studied him. You're from the Iron Saints. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Jack didn't answer. I saw the patch on your jacket outside. Vince continued. Arizona chapter. You think you run this region, huh? We're not in charge of anything, Jack said, his voice low. We just pass through. Funny, because you're not passing by. You're here, in my house, threatening my brother. Your brother kidnapped a woman. Vince shrugged. She's his problem, not yours. She asked for help. And you came. Vince smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Like a dog, can't let it go, always has to stick your nose in. Jack clenched his fists. Let her go. Vince laughed. It was a dry, short laugh. Then he stopped. No. He took a step closer. Jack didn't back away. Vince raised his hand, slowly, almost casually, and lightly patted Jack's chest. You know what she did? She was messing with our business, asking questions, taking pictures, texting us when she shouldn't have. You know what we do with people like that? I don't care. I should. Vince turned to his brother. How many from his club do you think will come to pick up the body? The driver shrugged. Hard to say, but they'll come. Then we bury it deep. Jack felt the weight of the Glock on his hip. He could draw it, shoot Vince, maybe take down 1 or 2 more before they took him. But then what? Rachel would die. The children on the road would never know what happened, and Wrench would arrive only to find blood and dirt. It wasn't an option. Listen, Jack said, forcing his voice to sound calm. You don't want trouble with the club, and I don't want trouble with you. Let me take her. You'll never hear from me again. Vince tilted his head. Tempting, but there's a little problem. He turned to Rachel. She already knows too much. And so do you. Jack saw the gun before Vince drew it. Pure intuition. Years on the road. He dove to the left at the exact moment the shot exploded. The bullet passed close by, so close that Jack felt the heat and hit the wall behind him. Chaos. Jack rolled over, pulled out his Glock and fired twice. One of the men screamed and fell. Another fired back. Jack hid behind the old table. Wood exploded around him. Rachel screamed. "Grab the woman!" Vince yelled. Jack saw the driver running toward Rachel. She tried to get away, but her hands were tied. He grabbed her by the hair and started dragging her toward the back door. No. Jack stood up and ran. He ignored the gunshots. He ignored the screams. He only saw Rachel, the terror on her face, her mouth open, her eyes pleading. He caught up with the driver and struck him with his shoulder. They both fell to the ground. The driver's gun slipped from his hand and slid across the floor. They rolled around, exchanging punches. Jack took one in the mouth. He tasted blood. He retaliated with an elbow to the temple. The driver screamed. Then someone kicked Jack in the ribs. Vince. Jack gasped for air. He tried to get up, but another kick came, then another. He fell to the side, coughing, struggling to breathe. Vince bent down. He picked up the Glock that had fallen from Jack's hand. He pointed it at his head. "Last chance, biker. You want to die for a bitch you don't even know?" Jack spat blood. He looked at Rachel. She was crying now, looking at him, shaking her head, saying no, telling him to stop, saying it wasn't worth it. But it was worth it. It was always worth it. "Go fuck yourself," Jack said. Vince sighed. "Okay." He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Jack must have emptied the magazine without realizing it. Vince looked at the gun, confused. Then he started laughing. "Lucky." A roar cut through the night. Harleys. Lots of. Vince froze. Everyone froze. The sound grew louder, closer. And then the first motorcycles appeared. Bright headlights, thundering engines, Iron Saints patches gleaming in the light. Wrench was in the lead, and he was not alone. 12 bikers, all armed. Vince looked at Jack. "Did you call for backup?" Jack spat blood again. He smiled. "I tried to avoid it." Wrench got off his motorcycle. He looked at the scene. Jack on the ground, Rachel tied up, Vince and the others with weapons. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he took out his own weapon. Slowly. Deliberately. "Does anyone want to explain what the hell is going on here?" Nobody moved. The air was heavy, too thick to breathe, too hot to think. Wrench took 2 steps forward, his gun still pointed at the ground, but the message was clear. The other bikers spread out in a semicircle, blocking all exits. They weren't just muscles and leather. They were presence, authority, the kind of thing that made armed men think twice. Vince looked around. He calculated. 5 of his men, 12 from the club. Simple math. Wrong math. He lowered his weapon. "That's none of your business." Wrench tilted his head. He looked at Jack, then at Rachel, then back at Vince. "One of our guys is bleeding on the ground. There's a woman tied up crying. Seems a lot like our business. She stole from us." "What did he steal?" Vince hesitated. Jack saw the doubt cross his face. He was trying to invent a story, something that made sense, something that justified it. But Wrench didn't give him time. "You know what I think?" Wrench said, his voice low, calm, dangerous. "I think you're trafficking. Methamphetamine by the smell. And this girl saw something she shouldn't have. Or worse, she was involved and wanted to. Get out. And you wouldn't let her. You don't know anything. I know more than you think." Wrench walked over to Rachel. He bent down. He looked at her. "What's your name, miss?" Rachel," she whispered. "Rachel, did they hurt you?" She nodded. Tears streamed down her face. Wrench looked at the driver. "Was it you?" The driver did not respond. Wrench stood up. He turned to the club. "Razor, cut her rope." One of the bikers, A huge guy with a red beard and a scar on his face approached. He pulled a knife from his belt and cut the ropes that bound Rachel's hands. She rubbed her wrists, the skin scarred and red. "Now," Wrench said, looking at Vince, "you have two options. Option 1, we call the police. They come. They find the drugs. They find the weapons. They find her. And you spend the next 10 years in a cell. And what about option 2? You disappear. You leave her. You leave us. And we forget that it ever happened." Vince gritted his teeth. "What if I don't like any of the options?" Wrench smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Then we'll do it our way." Jack saw what happened afterward even before it happened. He saw it in Vince's eyes. The anger, the pride, the stupidity. Vince raised his weapon. Wrench was faster. The gunshot echoed through the night. Vince screamed, the gun falling from his hand, his shoulder exploding red. He staggered backward, fell to his knees, clutching his wound. "Son of a bitch!" he yelled. Wrench didn't blink. "I told you there was an easy way." Vince's other men froze. One of them, the fat one, dropped his gun. He raised his hands. "I don't want any trouble, man. I was just here." "Then get out." He ran out. Then Tyler, then the other one. In seconds, only Vince and the driver remained. Wrench looked at the driver. "You two, take your brother and get out of here." The driver helped Vince to his feet. They staggered toward one of the pickup trucks. Wrench watched as they got in, started the engine, and drove away, leaving behind a trail of dust and blood. Silence. Jack stood up slowly, leaning against the wall. Everything ached, ribs, mouth, shoulder. But he was alive. Wrench came up to him. He looked at him. "You look like shit." "Thanks." "You're welcome." Wrench extended his hand. Jack took it. Wrench pulled him up. "You called me, you told me to wait, and yet you came alone." "She didn't have time." Wrench sighed. "You're going to die like this, Jack. You know that, right?" "Probably." "Idiot." Jack looked at Rachel. She was being helped by another biker, an older guy named Smokey, who was gentle and spoke softly. He offered her water. He covered her shoulders with a jacket. She was still trembling, still crying. But now, at least, she wasn't alone. "The children?" Jack asked. "I took them to the shelter. Carla is taking care of them. They're doing well." Jack felt something loosen in his chest. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You have to explain to Carla why you arrived with 2 abandoned children and an injured shoulder." Jack almost smiled. Almost. Rachel approached, slowly, hesitantly. She stopped in front of Jack. She looked at him with red, swollen eyes, but also with something more. Gratitude. You came," she said, her voice breaking. "Try." "Why?" Jack didn't know how to answer. Why was it right? Why wouldn't anyone else go? Because he had failed to save someone before and wouldn't let it happen again. "Because you asked for help," he said. She started crying again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was relief. It was liberation. She took a step forward and hugged Jack, tightly, desperately, as if he were the only solid thing in a world that had crumbled. Jack stood still for a second. Then slowly, he returned the hug. "You're safe now," he whispered. And he prayed that it was true, because the night was not yet over. And Jack knew, deep down where the bad things always resided, that men like Vince never forgot. And they never forgave. Rachel couldn't stop shivering. Even sitting in the back of Wrench's pickup truck, wrapped in a thermal blanket, she trembled as if the cold was coming from within. Jack was beside her, silent, looking out the window. The caravan of motorcycles moved ahead, red taillights flashing in the darkness like deadly fireflies. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, her voice low. "Refuge," Wrench replied from the front seat. "Safe place. Carla takes care of people who need to get out of bad situations." "And then what?" "Then you decide." Police, shelter, or we can help you start over somewhere else. Rachel closed her eyes. They're going to find me. Jack looked at her. They won't. You don't understand. Vince, he has people everywhere. Police, judges, even at the hospital. If I show up anywhere official, he'll know. Then you don't show up, Jack said. We'll hide you, give you a new name, put you on a bus to another state. And my daughter. Everything stopped. Jack turned to her. Do you have a daughter? Rachel opened. Her eyes. They were filled with pain, with guilt, with despair. Lily. She's 5 years old. Vince is with her. Wrench slammed on the brakes. The pickup truck skidded and stopped. The motorcycles ahead also stopped. He turned in his seat, looking directly at Rachel. Repeat that. He took my daughter. It's been 3 days. He said that if I didn't do what he told me, she... Rachel couldn't finish. She broke down in sobs. Jack felt the anger return, stronger, darker. Where is he with her? I don't know. He didn't tell me. He'd call me every now and then. He'd put her on the phone. She'd cry. She'd ask me to pick her up, and I couldn't. Wrench hit the steering wheel. Son of a bitch. Jack looked at him. We need to find her. How? We don't even know where to look. His brother, the driver, he knows. Wrench shook his head. They've disappeared. They're probably already in the hospital or in a hideout. Then we'll go after it. Jack. Wrench. There's a 5-year-old child in the hands of these guys. You know what they do to children. Wrench closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. When he opened them, Jack saw something he rarely saw in his friend. Fear. Not fear of fighting. Fear of failing. If we do this, Wrench said slowly, there's no going back. We'll be declaring war. Against Vince, against whoever is protecting him. This could break the club. I know. And you're willing to accept that? Jack looked at Rachel. She looked back. In her eyes, he saw something familiar. The same thing he had seen in Danny's eyes, in Sarah's, in so many other people he had tried to save. Hope, fragile, desperate, but alive. Yes, Jack said. Wrench sighed. He glanced in the rearview mirror. The other bikers were waiting. Wrench picked up the radio. Guys, we have a situation. Head back to the clubhouse now. The motorcycles roared again. The caravan moved, and Jack knew he had crossed the line. There was no easy way out anymore. The only remaining path was the difficult one, and in the end, someone was going to pay. The Iron Saints clubhouse was a red brick building on the outskirts of Phoenix. High fences, cameras, and iron gate. Inside, it smelled of motor oil, stale beer, and cigarette smoke. The walls were covered in photos, smiling leather-clad men embracing, alive. Some were no longer. Wrench gathered the chapter in the main room. 15 men sat in broken chairs, drinking, smoking, waiting. Jack was leaning against the wall, Rachel beside him, still wrapped in her blanket. She hadn't left his side since they got out of the pickup truck. Wrench slammed his fist on the table. Silence. We have a problem, he began. Vince Carver. Some of you know him. Drug dealer. Deals methamphetamine. Has connections with the local police, and now he has a child. Murmurs. Faces hardened. Razor, the guy with the red beard, stood up. What kind of kid? Her daughter. Wrench pointed to Rachel. 5 years old. Vince kidnapped her to force Rachel to work for him. Jack tried to get her out. It went wrong. And now we're in the middle of it. And what do you want us to do? Another biker asked, an older guy named Trigg with white hair and a tired look. Find the girl, bring her back. Trigg shook his head. You know what that means, Wrench. Vince has people, money. If we mess with him, we're going to have problems not only with him, but with everyone he pays. I know. And even so, you still want to go? Wrench looked at Jack, then at Rachel. Yes, Trigg sighed. So you're alone. Heavy silence. Jack felt the ground collapse beneath his feet. Trigg stood up. I respect you, Wrench, and I respect Edge. But this isn't a club fight. This is personal, and I'm not going to risk my patch over it. Others nodded. One by one, they stood up. They left. When the room emptied, only 5 remained. Wrench, Jack, Razor, Smokey, and a young guy named Finn, who never talked much but always showed up when needed. Wrench looked at them. Are you sure? Razor shrugged. A child will be a child. There's no arguing about it. Smokey nodded. Besides, I don't trust Vince. If we let this slide, he'll think he can do whatever he wants. Finn just looked at Jack and nodded. Wrench took a deep breath. Okay, so there are 5 of us. Against how many? Jack asked. It's hard to say. Vince has about 10 or 15 loyal men, but if he calls in favors, it could be more. And the girl? Rachel stood up. I remember something. When Vince called me for the last time, I heard the sound of a train in the background, and Lily, she said she had a dog. Jack frowned. Train and dog. That doesn't reduce it much. There's an industrial area south of Tempe, Smokey said. Train tracks run through there, old warehouses. Some still have people living in them. Perfect place to hide someone. Wrench nodded. Worth checking out. What if it's not there? Finn asked. So we look for the next place. And the next. Until we find it. Jack looked at Rachel. You stay here. With Carla. No. Rachel shook her head. I'll go. It's dangerous. She is my daughter. Jack saw the determination in her eyes. It wasn't bravado. It was love. The kind of love that burns brighter than fear. Okay, he said. But you stay in the car. No discussion. Rachel nodded. Wrench looked at the group. We leave in 2 hours. Rest. Eat. Weapons check at 4 in the morning. Everyone stood up. But Jack stayed. Wrench looked at him. Are you okay? No. Good. That means you're still thinking. Wrench placed his hand on Jack's shoulder. This could go very wrong. I know. We could lose. I know. And even so, you're going? Jack looked out the window. Outside, the night was still dark, but somewhere, in a dirty warehouse in a cold room, a 5-year-old girl was waiting. I was waiting for my mother. I was waiting for someone. I was waiting for him. Yes, Jack said. I'll go. Because if he didn't go, nobody would. And she would be left alone. And Jack had left someone alone before. Never again. 4 in the morning. The sky was still black, starless, moonless. The icy air cut through his skin. Jack was in the clubhouse courtyard checking his Glock. Full magazine, clean chamber, safe locked. He tucked it into his waistband and looked around. Wrench was carrying a shotgun. Razor, a pistol and a knife. Smokey, an old but reliable revolver. Finn had an automatic pistol and a baseball bat. Rachel was sitting in the pickup truck, her hands gripping her knees, her eyes fixed on nothing. Wrench approached Jack. Are you sure she can handle this? Jack looked at Rachel. She can handle it. Mothers can handle anything. And you? Jack did not answer. Wrench sighed. Do we have a plan? More or less. Arrive, search, pick up the girl, leave. What if Vince is there? Improvised. Great plan. They climbed into the vehicles, 2 motorcycles, a pickup truck. Rachel went with Wrench. Jack went alone. He preferred it that way. If everything went wrong, he could move quickly. Or die alone. The road to Tempe was empty. 30 minutes of smooth asphalt, broken fences, and dead streetlights. When they reached the industrial area, the sun was beginning to threaten the horizon, just a thin line of gray dividing the sky from the land. Smokey led the way. He knew the area. He'd grown up there. He pointed to a cluster of rusty warehouses 200 meters ahead. That one over there, he said. Train tracks run behind it. Some people still use it. Drug dealers mainly. Wrench stopped the vehicles 50 meters away. We'll go on foot. Total silence. They got out. Jack checked his gun again. He took a deep breath. He looked at Rachel. She was getting out of the pickup truck. "I told you to stay," Jack said, "and I said I'm not staying." Jack didn't argue. He didn't have time. They approached the warehouse. The main door was locked, but a side door had a broken window. Finn went in first, then Razor, then Jack. Inside, it smelled of mold, urine, and something chemical. Stacked boxes, scattered trash, and in the corner, a metal door, locked. Jack looked at Wrench. Wrench nodded. Razor approached, took a tool from his pocket, and began working on the lock. 10 seconds. Click. The door opened, stairs descending, dim light coming from below. Voices. Jack went first. He descended slowly, his gun raised. With each step, the voices grew clearer. "She can't stop." Crying. "Give me another pill. Vince told me not to hurt her." Jack reached the bottom of the stairs. A hallway, 2 doors. He chose the one on the right. He opened it slowly, and he saw a small, dirty room, a mattress on the floor, and sitting in the corner, hugging a dirty teddy bear, was a little girl. Brown hair, eyes red from crying, torn clothes. Lily. Next to her, a man, thin, tattooed, dozing in a chair. Jack entered. Quickly, silently, he reached the man and pressed the gun against his head. "It doesn't make any noise." The man woke up, eyes wide, sweating. "Damn it, man, I just..." Silence. Lily looked at Jack. She didn't understand. She didn't know who he was, but she saw the gun, and she started to cry. Jack lowered his weapon. He crouched down. He looked at her. "Lily," he said, his voice soft. "I'm a friend of your mother's. She's here. We came to pick you up." Her eyes widened. "Mom?" "Try." "Is she here?" "Okay, up there." Lily stood up. She dropped the teddy bear. She held out her hands. Jack picked her up. She was light, too small, too fragile. He looked at the man in the chair. "You get out of here, and you don't come back. Understand?" The man nodded. He ran off. Jack carried Lily upstairs in his arms. When he reached the main room, Rachel was waiting. She saw her daughter, and it collapsed. "Lily!" Lily saw her mother. "Mommy!" Jack put the girl down. She ran. Rachel grabbed her, hugged her, and cried. The two cried together. Wrench, Razor, Smokey, Finn. They all fell silent, because that was sacred. And then the front door exploded. Vince entered. His arm was bandaged. He had a gun in his hand. And behind him, 10 men. "Did you think it was going to be that easy?" Jack pushed Rachel and Lily back. Wrench and the others formed a line, weapons raised, hearts pounding. Vince smiled. "You invaded my property, you stole my asset, and now you think you're going to get away with it?" "She's not an asset," Jack said. "She's a child. He's the one who owes me money." "You're sick." Vince shrugged. "Maybe, but I'm alive. And you guys?" He looked around. He counted. 5 against 11. "I don't like your odds." "Then let us go out." "No." Jack saw it in his eyes. There was no negotiation. There was no way out. All they had was bullets. "Wrench," Jack said quietly. "When I say so, you run with them." "And you?" "I'm safe." "Jack." "What?" Jack shot first. He hit one of Vince's men in the chest. The guy fell. Chaos. Gunfire rang out. Wood shattered. Glass broke. Wrench grabbed Rachel and Lily, pushing them toward the back door. Razor and Smokey provided cover. Finn fired, retreated, and fired again. Jack moved. He rolled. He fired. 2 shots. 3. Another man fell, but it wasn't enough. Vince was coming. Jack saw the gun pointed at him. He saw the finger on the trigger, and then Razor shouted, "Down!" Jack threw himself to the ground. Razor's shotgun thundered. Vince was hit in the side, spun around, and Fell, but he didn't die. He crawled over, he grabbed the gun, he pointed it toward where Rachel and Lily were running. No. Jack stood up, he ran, he didn't think, he just acted. The game was played up front. The shot came. And Jack felt it. Fire, pain, darkness. It fell. Jack woke up 3 days later. Hospital. White lights, smell of disinfectant, chest pain, thick bandage, difficulty breathing. Wrench was sitting beside the bed. "You're stupid," he said. Jack tried to speak. Nothing came out. "The bullet grazed you. 2 centimeters to the left and you wouldn't have been here." Wrench leaned in. "But you saved them. Rachel and Lily are fine. Vince is in jail. His brother too. It's over." Jack closed his eyes. It didn't seem like it was over. It seemed like it would never end. "They want to see you," Wrench said. The door opened. Rachel entered holding Lily's hand. The girl had a bandage on her arm, but she was smiling. Small, shy, but real. Rachel approached. She looked at Jack. Tears streamed down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack shook his head. "No need. It's necessary. You didn't know me. You didn't owe me anything." And yet, he didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. Lily let go of her mother's hand and approached. She looked at Jack with huge, curious eyes. "Are you the man who saved me?" Jack nodded. "Mom said you're a hero." Jack almost smiled. "I'm not." "Yes, you are." Lily placed the teddy bear on the bed. "To me, you are." And something inside, Jack, something that had been broken for a long time, began to mend itself. Not entirely, never completely, but enough. If this story touched you, if you believe that there are still people willing to risk everything for strangers, hit like now. Subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments, would you do the same as Jack? Because stories like this happen every day, and someone needs to be there to answer the call. Next video. A biker finds a pregnant woman bleeding on the side of the road. The baby is coming, and the nearest hospital is 80 kilometers away. He has 12 minutes to decide whether she lives or dies.